time will tell. But yeah, I mean, if the consumer for 23andMe is smarter than the consumer for Ancestry, they'd only be a little bit smarter, probably. So, and I know that 23andMe has patents on its survey methodology and its survey platform, but you can't patent a survey, right? There's SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics, and so it would be very, very, very easy to study the patents for in my opinion, to study the patents that 23andMe have, and to say, okay, we're not going to do that. And there's, at least 20,000 other options for me to develop a survey other than what they've patented. Yep. So I agree with you. I think if Ancestry wanted to go toe-to-toe with 23andMe, they could, frankly, probably crush them overnight, just because of the size of that database. Mm-hmm. Although there is one little asterisk I'm going to put here, and when we chatter about this in the professional community, there's different opinions. So I'm going to give you both opinions. I don't know where I stand. One of the big reasons why 23andMe's test has traditionally cost more than Ancestry's test is because 23andMe has always gone through a higher regulatory requirement. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with CLIA, C-L-I-A. But CLIA is, sorry, what's that?
I'm not too familiar. It'd be great if you give me an overview on that.
Okay, so CLIA, I don't even remember what it stands for, Clinical Laboratory something Act. It's
I can take a look at it online later.
Yeah.
CLIA,
CLIA, C-L-I-A.
Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So it's what CMS, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, require. Yep. So if you're going to operate a clinical laboratory doing clinical stuff, you have to have CLIA approval, which just means everything needs to be documented. You need to have best practices going on in the laboratory to how you actually do the experiment or do the assay. Doesn't mean that the assay has any value, but you just need to, be following best practices.
Sure.
But to get a CLIA-approved laboratory, it's just an extra burden of paperwork, which means to do anything with a CLIA-approved laboratory will cost you more money than doing it through a research laboratory. 23andMe has always done its genetics with a partner who is a CLIA-approved laboratory, whereas Ancestry, I don't know if this has changed recently, but as of a couple of years ago, was not. I don't know what the public statements are now. But so that's why Ancestry could really operate at a cheaper price. So this raises a bit of a question, right? If Ancestry does want to go clinical, how's it going to manage that switch? I think it's totally manageable, and I'll tell you how I would do it. So do you know what the Geisinger healthcare system is out in Pennsylvania? Are you familiar with them?
Yep.
Okay. So Geisinger has been running this project called MyCode, and they've just amped it up now, but we'll talk about MyCode. So what Geisinger healthcare system has been doing is any patient that comes into any of the Geisinger clinics throughout Pennsylvania for any type of blood draw, doesn't matter what it is, they'll be invited to participate in a MyCode study and just get an extra tube of blood. And they're just sequencing your whole genome, and they're doing it in a research lab to keep the costs low. But if the research lab sees anything interesting, then they send that sample to a CLIA lab, and I think they use Harvard partners. I think. But so this, because only a very small percentage of people will actually have something interesting. So it's a way you save money, right? So you can continue to run the majority of samples.
Money on the big. Okay. Let's say, for example, so you're to make sure I'm understanding this right. So you're kind of saying that Ancestry could follow potentially a similar model, but would they be able to market themselves as using a CLIA lab then, given that they'd only really be using it if it was something interesting, right?
Yes, they could, because any positive, they could absolutely market themselves that, because any positive report will have gone through a CLIA lab. Or they just bite the bullet and just use CLIA lab for everything. They could do that too, but it's going to cost